Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Airspeed Prime here with my next Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles episode review. This is obviously for the Nickelodeon version of the show. And it's going to be my review for Season 2, Episode 8, The Good, the Bad, and Casey Jones. This is obviously the return of the show after about 2 months off over kind of Christmas and the New Year. And we're finally back now, which is nice. So we'll get straight into the episode review. My general thoughts on the episode are that I did actually really enjoy it. Mainly for, Casey Jones finally getting introduced to basically the main cast of the show. Him meeting all the other turtles, and as suspected, his friendship that begins with Raphael, because they're actually quite similar as characters, and also he discovers that April is friends with the turtles as well. So he really kind of gets that kind of big boost in the show, kind of becoming into the main cast, which was nice to see. My one major complaint, not a major complaint, my one complaint about the episode would be that it did focus on the fact that Raphael has anger issues, and that has been addressed in basically every episode that that has had any sort of focus on Raphael. I thought it was done reasonably well in this episode. Just the fact that it's happened before just made it a little bit kind of jarring in this episode to see it addressed so much, and see probably the most kind of vicious kind of bit of anger from Raphael when he nearly stabs Leonardo in the face just because he lost that sparring contest. Almost to the point where it's just like they tried to reference basically how Casey Jones and Raphael met in the 2003 show so much that they almost turned the Nickelodeon Raphael into the 2003 Raphael for this episode. They kind of fixed it towards the end and kind of towards the middle of the episode and kept it true to this new kind of iteration of the character, but there was definitely a little bit of kind of you're referencing that a bit too much throughout the episode. But overall, as I said, the fact that this did so much to introduce all the characters together, it makes the remaining episodes so much more interesting, because potentially this means April and Casey are probably going to be a big part of the kind of main cast of characters now, and probably it will mean less episodes where we're kind of missing April for a whole episode, missing Casey for a whole episode. So on the whole, this will be really kind of positive for the series. But getting into some specifics on the episode, obviously we start off with Casey basically deciding to become this vigilante guy because of the events of the previous episodes. He wants to protect those close to him from all these ninjas, mutants and so on. And so this is where he prepares his gear, basically all his hockey gear, modifies it into fighting equipment with the classic Casey Jones. It's all based around sports stuff, so primarily hockey. I think he had a baseball bat as well, and uses the goalie equipment, I think, to make some guards and stuff like that. The design for him, kind of all armoured up, was it's actually pretty nicely done. The mask takes a little bit of getting used to, especially after seeing, I suppose, how iconic the mask from the 2003 show is, and then seeing this one kind of all spray painted up. It's a bit all over the place, but it works in the end just about, I think. Especially the fact that he has face paint on underneath it. I think that really helps to make it work well. And then we see that he's kind of writing a journal as well as this is going on. A lot of it's inner monologue about the stuff that's going on, referencing, I assume it's meant to reference Rorschach from Watchmen, just the way he was writing about the scum of the world and all this other stuff. But you definitely see the anger in him in parts, not displayed as much as it is with Raphael in the episode, but you definitely see the similarities in that they take fighting too far sometimes in the heat of the moment, while the other turtles definitely know when to stop for the most part. So that there's a nice comparison, because you sort of knew just based on other turtle shows that it was going to be those two that the friendship developed from. So it was a nice introduction to vigilante Casey Jones. And then with Raphael, you see, as I said earlier on, his story kind of with the whole anger in this episode starts off with the sparring contest. Leonardo wins, taking Raphael by surprise with the knee to the face, and then Leonardo just goes to kind of bow before Splinter, and he just gets absolutely annihilated by Raphael with a sneak attack. And they all kind of like treat this as like, whoa, you nearly killed him here with this, and Leonardo's nearly knocked out, because it wasn't just a sparring attack, this was actually a pretty vicious attack from Raphael. So it did a good episode of presenting the anger. It was just maybe a bit more angry than I would usually expect from Raphael, considering the amount of other episodes that have dealt with this before. Definitely ratcheted the seriousness of it up a bit. Continuing on with that, obviously where they first meet is you really see that Raphael, through seeing someone else in the same position as him angry at people, he sees kind of how bad he is just by looking at Casey Jones taking the fighting too far with the purple dragons, attacking the old man, who they're all recurring characters in that scene as well, which was nice. But then they start fighting each other, and the one slight other complaint I have would be just how good of a fighter Casey Jones was, with very little kind of setup behind it, especially when he was fighting Raphael one-on-one. Even when he wasn't using all of the kind of gimmicky stuff like he had, like the roller skates, I could understand it then. But even when they were just like fighting one-on-one, like ice hockey sticks versus size, I thought it was a bit too evenly matched, and that Raphael, trained as a ninja, should be able to get the advantage on Casey Jones. Obviously didn't want to hurt him, but you could tell that the fight, they kind of needed a lot of fighting time in this episode, and maybe it was extended out too much. It really makes me wonder, will Casey actually get trained in some ways by Splinter or Raphael over the course of the series, just to see will they improve his fighting styles and stuff like that. Yeah, after this, the main kind of plot of the episode is that Casey gets followed by the Foot Ninja, the Robo Foot Ninjas, as he follows Raphael, which basically leads to the Robot Foot Ninjas discovering where the turtle's lair is in the sewers, which is important information that I assume Shredder and the Krang don't quite know yet, even though I think it's been a plot point before. I did enjoy him meeting all of the other characters as well. I thought that was a really interesting scene, the way it was done, where it was just the turtles acting like brothers, teenagers, just chatting, watching TV, and he walks in, he's just like, whoa, there's four of them, and you kind of see that he's making these kind of really rude comments towards all mutants, like, I hate them, and you see that he's afraid of rats, and then he kind of fumbles and is captured by everyone. And that's when April and Splinter walk down. She's talking to him as her master, and she's like, well, Casey? And it was that kind of classic character finding out the secret of other characters. And I like the way he wasn't instantly like kind of like really aggressive towards all these mutants. He was just kind of accepting it because April was there. And he was just initially shocked with the turtles just because they're mutants, but once he found out, like, oh, they're good, I'm cool with this for the most part. But then Splinter was a bit too far, seeing a giant rat guy, but it was a good introduction. I did really enjoy it. I suppose him also finding about the secret about April, having known her for a bit, definitely interesting to see where exactly that goes. Will they play up the Casey, Donnie, April love triangle a bit more now that they know each other? But primarily the rest of the episode is Casey and Raphael teaming up to face the kind of leader Robofoot Ninja, who basically scanned their location, and they have to stop him giving the location to Shredder, we assume. And this was a nice team up because they're initially kind of arguing at the start of the fight, kind of getting in each other's way, but then over the course of, it's a really long kind of sequence, like the whole last third of the episode is this sequence as they go through the tunnels and then in the subway. It's a really long sequence, and you just see their kind of relationship develop. It was really actually nicely done, the way they kind of realised that they have to work together to get the advantage, and ultimately the resolution with this was Raph kind of throwing Casey, using the fact that he had extra momentum with the roller skates, up at the guy before he escaped the subway. That was a really nice kind of team-up moment, because they hadn't really done anything together that up to yet. They were just fighting one-on-one, trying to one-up each other, but then Raph just decides team move and kind of does it. So that was a nice resolution. And then instantly after that, they're like, buddies when they come back, talking about how awesome the fight was, and they both really enjoy fighting and this sort of thing. And you get the sense that having another person for both of them that's also kind of very similar to them, has a lot of anger, is going to help both of them. And then the reaction from all the other characters to this was interesting, that they all kind of saw this, that like, oh, it's good that they have someone who's like them, but we have to deal with basically two Raphaels right now. And April's reaction was just like, oh, he's got another kind of boneheaded guy with him. He's going to be really difficult to deal with. So overall, that was the big positive of the episode, just the character interactions between Casey and the Turtles and Splinter, stuff like that. Only other thing really to talk about would be April using her sensing ability that we got referenced sometime last season, kind of got a little bit of an explanation through the finale for season 1. What hasn't really been addressed since then. And just the fact that she just used it, like, it wasn't like that as ninjas they have this sense where they can sense things really well. They specifically focused in on just her being able to sense this just a little bit before everyone else. And then the preview for the next episode obviously hints at April having this secret as well that maybe is going to be revealed. So I'm glad that they're presenting April as an important kind of plot point going into the next few episodes, because as I've said, she's definitely one of the most interesting characters in the show, and this episode really did a good job of presenting Casey as one of the most interesting characters in the show, though the Turtles are still struggling a bit because they're really relying on the standard trait for that turtle, like wrath with anger and so on. They just need to do something new and unique, I think, with each different turtle to make it work properly. But yep, that's my episode review for The Good, the Bad, and Casey Jones. I'll be back next week with the next week's episode review. Thanks for watching this one, and bye.